Are Prince Harry and Meghan Markle getting an award based on a series of lies meant to manipulate the ignorance that the American public has towards the monarchy? Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany and today we're going to address the growing backlash facing not only Harry and Meghan, but Kerry Kennedy, who decided to give them the Ripple of Hope Award from her father, Robert F. Kennedy's Human Rights Center, and how everybody's calling this into question. So Kerry Kennedy decided to go out and defend this, and what she said raised a lot more questions and opened them up to even more backlash and criticism, because she explained that her sole reason for giving them this award essentially was based on what they said in the Oprah Winfrey interview and those salacious and very much unsubstantiated allegations of institutional racism within the royal family. However, what she exposed as well is her own ignorance and a lot of the country's ignorance towards what actually happens within the monarchy and royal institutions, and how basically she's pulling her whole organization into disrepute over this award. And it is an attempt, I feel like, by Harry and Meghan to compete with Catherine and William, who are doing the Earthshot Prize Award in Boston just a couple of days before. So this is really interesting and I feel like important to unpack, because one of the things that frustrated me the most about Harry and Meghan's Oprah Winfrey interview is that not only was about 5 to 10% of it actually accurate, but what Harry and Meghan did, and specifically Meghan, is she played on the ignorance Americans have towards the monarchy. She played and counted on them not understanding how the monarchy system actually works to get her point across, to make Oprah go into these conclusions that never actually happened and are just basically suppositions by Americans who just don't understand fully what's going on. And I feel like not only does that make the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Center look bad, but Kerry Kennedy in general. And she's sitting there now with a lot of egg on her face. And I'm sure she's wondering, why in the heck did I agree to this? And so we will unpack this a bit today. But if you guys haven't been here before, like I said, my name is Brittany and I provide compelling royal commentary. And I also will be reviewing television shows and movies and sharing a bit of history too. So if you guys want to subscribe, that would be fantastic. I also have a fashion channel called Royal Fashion News. In addition, I'm doing a live stream tomorrow for the state dinner. Now, I haven't settled on a time, and I'm sure some of you are like, why have you not settled on a time? Well, it's because I don't know when the dinner is, and I keep waiting and looking to try to find when the state dinner will be, because that's when we'll see some new tiaras from Catherine and Camilla. So maybe we'll just set it for later in the evening, because I thought it would be fun to discuss, especially if Catherine and Camilla have new tiaras. And there's a crumble cookie that just opened up right up the street from me. So if you want to get your own sweet little treat for tomorrow afternoon, in addition to getting maybe a soda, glass of wine, whatever, or maybe a glass of champagne while watching some of the state dinner coverage, feel free to join me. I will put a link in the description and more details in the description box down below. But back to Harry and Meghan, the pseudo royals, the couple who is so desperate to be royalty without actually doing any of the things the real royals actually do. They want the fun, glamorous things. They didn't want to go to community centers or anything like that. No, they wanted to go to the Lion King premiere. Well, now Harry and Meghan can do that full time. Of course, nobody's asking them to any premieres, which is funny and ironic. But they are also lobbying, I feel like, for people to give them these awards to make them feel self-important. And Kerry Kennedy is the latest casualty of that. The first big casualty was the NAACP. The next casualty, unfortunately, is Kerry Kennedy. And really the big fault of this whole thing is not only that she's giving them this Ripple of Hope Awards, it's how she defended it. And she did this in Vanity Fair. And you can just see, and I was like, I read it, and I was like, oh, honey, I'm so sorry, but you really don't know what you're talking about, and it really, really shows. So here, let me go into this a little bit right now. So she was asked, this year, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have been awarded the RFK Award for their fight for human rights. The two have been questioned by numerous media outlets for making claims the Duchess suffered racial abuse at the hands of a member of the British royal family. What is your opinion? All right, already in this interview, what they're saying right there, which I missed initially, is incendiary. Racial abuse. She faced not only, because really her argument throughout the whole Oprah Winfrey interview was indifference to a certain extent, and that she was not protected from the press. She was not racially abused ever within the British monarchy. She was given everything she wanted. So even asking that is absolutely incorrect and inaccurate and horribly written. And I hope the monarchy blacklists them forever, because that is a completely inappropriate way to ask that question. You should have said the racist allegations that Meghan Markle made, because at this point, they're just allegations. But to provide the extra explainer of abuse elevates what happened. And it wasn't abuse. You could say that in some dark corners of the internet, perhaps Meghan did face abuse based on her race, but was never within the royal institution, and it was not within the British press. The British press called her out for not following protocol, spending too much money. Those things generally, yeah, you do get called out for. But racial abuse, no, that never happened. She says, when my father went to South Africa in 1966, he spoke in front of a white audience and said that the problem in this generation is talking about racial justice. He also spoke of moral courage, saying that few would have the courage to question colleagues, family, community about the power structure they maintained. And this is what Harry and Meghan have done. They went to the oldest institution in UK history and told them what they were doing wrong. And they couldn't have structural racism within the institution, that they could not maintain a misunderstanding about mental health. They knew that if they did this, there would be consequences, that they would be ostracized, that they would lose their family, their position within this structure, and that people would blame them for it. They have done it in a way. They have done it anyways because they believe they couldn't live with themselves if they didn't question this authority. I think they have been heroic in making this step. Oh, poor deluded Kerry. I'm so sorry to tell you, honey. They did that all for money. Even if they weren't paid directly by Oprah, by CBS, whatever, they made a kickback from that in some way. And the move to Mexit was for financial reasons. It wasn't because of the British monarchy. How do we know this? Because they're in Hollywood and they're not in Canada or Africa. If they were in any of those other countries, I would believe they actually left for legitimate reasons. They moved to Hollywood and to the expensive area of Montecito for the sole reason of trying to make as much cash as humanly possible because of their royal titles. And that's just so unbelievably evident that she even says this. Oh, but let's dismantle this a bit more. So she's talking about her father, who stood in front of South Africa, which had the abhorrent practice of apartheid. And he stood up there and spoke against these institutions. And then she backtracks and goes, and Meghan Markle, she spoke against the UK's oldest institution. Well, number one, the oldest institution in the UK is the church. The church is the only oldest institution in the UK. Churches in the UK are older than what you could designate as the official founding of the country, really, in 1066. The churches go back longer than that. So Christianity came to the UK in 597. So that really is the oldest institution. Now, was it centralized in a particular level of power? Maybe not. But the institution itself was there, which spread and still is maintained in the UK today. So A, her supposition there is completely wrong. But B, why are you comparing Meghan Markle, who lived literally as a princess in a palace, to your father who was talking to people who were segregated based on their race? Meghan Markle lived on the grounds of Kensington Palace. If your comparison applies, she would be living outside of Kensington Palace. And then eventually they moved to Frogmore Cottage, which was on the grounds of Windsor. If the comparison applies, Meghan Markle and Harry would be living somewhere else. Now, we did hear that they did have another place that they tended to live or stay at in the UK, but they were gifted a home and allowed to refurbish it the way they wanted within the grounds of Windsor, which is a protected property. Meghan got the church wedding. She got to wear the white wedding dress, the veil she wanted, the tiara. It wasn't the one she wanted, but she got to wear a tiara belonging to Queen Mary. The Queen was there, Prince Philip was there, the whole royal family was there. She got everything she wanted. It was a $45 million wedding. So why are you comparing apartheid in South Africa with a woman who got a $45 million wedding in Windsor? The comparison it's not even in the same hemisphere. It doesn't work in the slightest. And that, again, betrays her ignorance. And her reason for giving Harry and Meghan this award has nothing to do with institutional racism, because it didn't exist. Again, if it existed, Meghan would have never married Harry. She would not have gotten access to some of Diana's jewelry, some of the trinket pieces, with the exception of the aquamarine ring and supposedly the Cartier watch. Those were the two things that she was able to get a hold of, really, that I feel like are, somewhat substantial. Catherine got the rest. Catherine got all the good pieces. Thank goodness. Although I do love that aquamarine ring. I think that is really pretty. But Meghan got all this stuff. She got a huge wardrobe. And her whole wedding was paid for by the monarchy. She did not have to lift a finger, really, because her estimated wealth of $5 million, I feel like, was a bit of an exaggeration. Even the Middleton family paid for Catherine's dress, and that was the 6 figures. Meghan's cost more, and she's marrying, at the time, the 6th in line to the throne. So Meghan got everything she wanted. So how did she face institutional racism? Oh, the press were mean to her. Like they were mean to Catherine, like they were mean to Sophie, like they're mean to Diana. They're mean to everyone. Meghan's not special in that case. I feel like the title of an article that they always glom onto is the Straight Out of Compton one, which was perhaps maybe inappropriate, but there is a song titled that. There is a movie, I believe, titled that as well. So I feel like they were making a bit of a play. It was inappropriate, yes. Could that have come from ignorance within the British institution? Sure. Why don't we give them the benefit of the doubt? But no, it's all horrific racism. And again, most of the criticism aimed at Meghan was actually completely accurate. So Meghan spent a gigantic amount of money on clothes. One of the worst offenses was her $100,000 Dior dress that she wore on tour in Morocco. What's the problem with this dress? Well, a whole ton of reasons. A, it was ugly. B, the color did absolutely nothing for her. So she paid $100,000, which is an easy down payment for a house for a dress that is unflattering. It came from Dior, which is a French house. If you are on tour as a royal, you need to wear either UK clothes generally or clothes from the country that you're visiting. Wearing clothes and brands that are outside of that is generally considered a no-no, especially for something as expensive as that Dior dress was. That was wildly inappropriate. She wore a wildly inappropriate engagement dress that was somewhat see-through, and it was just not really a good look for Meghan. She also tried to compete with other royals. Her and Harry, once they got their own Instagram, would release things that competed with other family members, which in general, as a monarchy, you're not supposed to do. She also kept secrets about the birth of her firstborn son, Archie, which I feel like, a lot of people make the surrogacy connection. I think Meghan Markle was just trying to play games with the media, and it's massively, again, like everything she does, massively backfires on her, because everybody's sitting there going, okay, is your kid real? What really happened? It was I think a game Meghan Markle wanted to play to drum up interest in her children. And instead it's led a lot of people to question whether or not the children exist, if she had them, all sorts of other questions that she invited by being a pill about where her kids were born. It was that arrogance of not telling people who the godparents were. And your son at that point is being paid for by the taxpayers. Ergo, there is a quid pro quo that goes on. In order to live a life of luxury, you need to give the public a little bit of an in. But Harry and Meghan only wanted to do that under certain circumstances. Everything else, they wanted to massively control all the messaging. And we saw this in reaction to the Brexit agreement, which we saw in their Brexit announcement, where they outlined all their grievances with the media, how they would only work with certain outlets that were, small independent ones. Of course, they would never give me the time of day. And now they pretty much only work with major outlets. So really, was that ever the case? No. So it's just this interesting thing where Harry and Meghan tried to make it look like the institution was against them, when really the institution was trying to make them work within the system that they had, and Harry and Meghan didn't want to. Now, that is Harry and Meghan's right. But what they did to remove themselves from the institution, was so disrespectful. It is absolutely insane. They dropped the news right before Catherine's birthday. They made this list of massive demands on their website and basically said, oh, we're just going to be, part-time working royals, and, everybody's just going to go along with it. It'll just be fine. And everybody else is like looking at themselves going, well, no, you can't do that. You can't do that, right? Harry is still fighting for Met security for himself and his family, even though he doesn't live in the UK any longer. He doesn't have any official duties as a member of the royal family. He's still fighting for that. And according to reports, he only changed and said he would pay for it once the lawsuit became public. Before then, it wasn't clear that he was going to pay for it, according to government officials. And honestly, I don't think he intended to pay. Harry and Meghan's claims of institutional racism are completely incorrect. But I feel like they base this on a couple of things, and this is what the conclusions they had Oprah come to. So one of the big reasons is that Meghan claimed in the Oprah Winfrey interview, and it was supposition, it wasn't completely direct. Meghan led Oprah Winfrey to a lot of these conclusions, is that Archie did not get security because he doesn't have a title. And the reason he doesn't have a title is because he is mixed race. And Meghan knew most of Americans were probably like, well, yeah, that's right. Why didn't he get a title? Doesn't he need a title? I mean, he is the great-grandson of the queen. He's going to be the grandson of the future queen. His cousins have titles. Why doesn't he have one? Well, it came down to the letters of patent, and Meghan knew people wouldn't understand this because she dipped it in a bit later in the interview, where she admitted that yes, he's not entitled to a prince title. So she knew that, but she made this big, breathy, statement early in the interview, and then let it sprinkled it in later, where she knew probably most people wouldn't pick it up, that actually he was never entitled to it in the first place. So when it comes to titles, the letters of patent say the grandson of the monarch can have a title in addition to the children of the firstborn son of the Prince or Princess of Wales. So in this instance, William's children, all of his kids, were entitled to prince and princess titles. And the reason for that is because they would eventually be elevated to that status. As children of a future king, they are higher up in the line of succession. They are more constitutionally relevant. They will most likely be working members of the royal family. I feel like the royals have estimated how many people they'll actually need, and they need, I feel like, a bit of younger blood, and it will take the Wales' kids a while to get there. And all the rest of Europe as well is minimizing and downsizing who has specific royal titles. If you are not in the direct line of succession, most likely you will not either have a his or her Royal Highness title, you will not have a Prince or Princess title, and we've seen families do this. You will maybe not even get a title at all. So we've seen this in Denmark. The Queen decided to strip her grandchildren of her second son of their Prince and Princess titles and instead make them Counts and Countess. We also have in Sweden, the grandchildren of the King's 6 grandchildren, who are the children of his second and third born child, will all now just be entitled Prince and Princess, but will not have a his or her Royal Highness. In Norway, we've just seen Martha Louise be stripped of basically her Royal Highness title and all her patronages. She still technically has it, but she can't use it functionally anymore. And the second born child of the Crown Prince and Princess of Norway, he's just a His Highness, not His Royal Highness like his older sister. So all the royal families are moving in this direction of culling their members, of breaking it down basically to the core function of who needs to have a title, who needs to be working royals. So Archie was never going to be a working royal. He never was. He didn't need a prince title, and I would argue he still doesn't need it. He's going to be living in Montecito, California for the rest of his life. I doubt he'll have much interaction with any of his royal relatives, and I feel like that's on Harry and Meghan, not the monarchy itself. Now, we still have the question of, are they prince or princess now? I feel like you still do see that on a page like Wikipedia. We don't see it, though, reflected on the royal family's website, and I think there's a decent legal argument to be made that they only get those titles if they were born as grandchildren of the monarch rather than just great-grandchildren, and they are not automatically elevated to that higher title once Charles becomes king. Because here's what happens in all monarchies, which again I feel like most Americans kind of glaze over and don't understand, is that yes, Harry started out as third in line to the throne, but now he inevitably became 6th. And he is now elevated to 5. And once William becomes king at some point, he'll be elevated one position higher. But as George has children, as Charlotte has children, as Louis has children, he'll just go further, 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 further down the line. That's what happens in all monarchies. So for example, when Princess Estelle was born in Sweden, she was the firstborn child of the Crown Princess Victoria, and she was the first grandchild. The next grandchild born was, at that time, Her Royal Highness Princess Leonor. And Leonor was the second of the generation. So Victoria had not had a second child. Carl Philip had not married Sophia yet. And so Leonor was the second in line to the throne, essentially, of her generation for a while. Now she has 4 cousins ahead of her in addition to Estelle, and she has 2 younger siblings as well. So she's gone from 5th in line to the throne. So now she is 9th in line for the throne. So you just get bumped further and further down the line. And that happens, again, in every single monarchy. Meghan Markle knew most Americans would probably be rather ignorant of the slimming down effect that was going on within Europe. So she knew she could get this outraged reaction from the American public by just sprinkling these misdirections and misinformation into her interview, while at some point saying the truth that, well, yeah, he wasn't ever entitled to it in the first place. Now, he could have been the Earl of Dumbarton, but there have been a lot of, I would say, very accurate rumors that she didn't like the idea of her son having dumb in his title. So she and Harry decided to decline it, I believe, in the idea that they would automatically be elevated to prince and princess. And everybody else was like, oh no, I'm so sorry, hold your horses. The other big allegation within the Oprah Winfrey interview was the racist comment allegation, that somebody in the royal family made a racist comment against Meghan and Harry's future children. Now here's the thing though, there are 2 versions of it. In Meghan's version, it was a comment made multiple times throughout her pregnancy, whereas Harry said it happened once before they were even married, when they initially started dating. Those are 2 massively different stories. And I feel like most outlets really didn't pick up on that at the time, because everybody was like, oh, somebody made this comment. And Harry and Meghan too, I feel like, didn't think through the comment they were making, because they had to rush out and go, oh, no, wait, because everybody's like, well, it's probably Prince Philip. He makes pretty outrageous comments from time to time. They're like, no, wait, it wasn't Prince Philip. It wasn't Prince Philip. And then it left Charles, William, Camilla, Catherine. Those were probably the big 4 that are still on everyone's minds. One author has made the suggestion it was Camilla who made the comment. And I believe it was probably a rather innocent comment that has been blown way out of proportion. But Meghan knew that Americans would be incensed by this, a portion of the American audience, and that she knew, based on the BLM riots that had happened the previous summer, that people would just glom onto this immediately, because she knew the American audience, she knew the tale she was spinning for them, that this narrative would really click with a good portion of the American people. And so Kerry Kennedy, now if Kerry Kennedy had given this award to Harry and Meghan in 2020, hey, it may have survived. But she did it in 2022. And a lot of people are wising up to who Harry and Meghan really are. They're grifters, and that they're the issue, not the monarchy itself. They are really the ones causing a lot of problems. So it's just interesting to see this huge change in separation that's happening. And Kerry has become a casualty of that, because she made this outrageous decision to say that, well, you know what? It was structural racism. What Meghan Markle experienced in the royal family is just like apartheid in South Africa. That was the decision she was making. And she also mentioned the mental health thing. I won't stay long on that, but I will say that when it comes to Meghan, and somebody made this comment once, I believe in a comment or in a post to me via Instagram somewhere, and I apologize if I don't remember exactly where, but that Meghan was able to keep her entire OBGYN and birth team basically hidden from the public and a good portion of the monarchy. You're telling me that she could do all that, yet she couldn't get mental health help? That just doesn't even make any sense. So her mental health argument, which Kerry Kennedy also cites, especially because her own husband admitted he didn't even ask anybody for help. So how is Harry supposed to get Meghan help if Harry doesn't even ask for it? In addition, Meghan said in the interview that she went to HR in the palace because I guess she would think that most Americans would be like, oh yeah, that's the same thing I would do. Even though they have all these doctors on retainer, she went to the HR, allegedly, HR section of the palace and asked them for assistance. They're like, well, we can't help you. And if she went and did that just for receipts, I'm sure they did say, we can't help you, because it's like, well, you're a grown adult, find a mental health professional. That's not our job. Our job is to help the palace staff you're bullying. We're working on mental health for them. So we can't include you in that circle, but you can find your own mental health assistance somewhere else. And Kerry Kennedy, at the end of the day, she says that, well, they did all this knowing they would be ostracized, knowing they would lose relationships. And it's like, well, yeah, that was by design. I think it was designed that way, mostly by Meghan. I don't feel like Harry totally, I feel like it hits him every once in a while what he's lost, but I don't think he fully understands what he said and how it impacted his family and how it damaged his relationships with family members. I still don't think he fully grasps how he went wrong and how everything went so bad, but I feel like Meghan did. Meghan was the architect of this because she wanted to separate Harry from the royal family, because she wanted that title in Hollywood to hopefully try to make her Hollywood dreams finally come true, because she struggled for a long time. She was desperate for that big break, and she kind of got it via Suits, but really it wasn't a huge show. She was a supporting character, and the reason was she was a crummy actress, and there's nothing wrong with that, but hey, you were never going to get those Oscar caliber roles, but she thought the title would make all the difference. And so when Kerry Kennedy comes out and lists all these reasons why I'm getting Harry and Meghan this award, I'm just looking over going, Kerry, you got played. You got swindled. You got the wool pulled over your eyes. You're making your argument based on an interview where I feel like only 5 to 10% of it was actually accurate. And now you're stuck with egg on your face, and the backlash is growing worse, and you really only have yourself to blame in this situation, because I've done a video dismantling the Oprah Winfrey argument. A lot of other people have too. So it's not like this truth wasn't out there, but like so many, Kerry Kennedy, I believe, doesn't understand the monarchy and was like, well, of course this happened. Why wouldn't this happen? So Kerry Kennedy fell for the lie, and now she has to deal with the consequences, and they're not pretty. I did a long Twitter thread dismantling Harry and Meghan's arguments within the Oprah Winfrey interview and just telling Kerry, hey, your father did some great things, but this is not playing well for you. And really your attempt to defend this really made you look completely and utterly ignorant. And with Catherine and William coming to the States in the next couple weeks, I feel like we'll get a full view as Americans of the power of the monarchy, and it'll really diminish the brand value that Harry and Meghan have, because they're hangers on. They're attempting to reformat themselves into this royal mold that never really existed, and they're hoping and they're praying that Americans who remain, I would say in the large part, mostly ignorant about the monarchy. A lot of people have disliked Meghan because, hey, they're family people and they don't like that. So Harry and Meghan have burned their own bridges in a lot of ways in that respect. So when it comes to this Ripple of Hope award, I feel like Kerry Kennedy, at the end of the day, will go, maybe this wasn't the best idea. And I feel like, again, she's one of those ones who bought into the lies, and I feel like a lot of Americans did. But if you are on this channel, you are looking for commentary, you're looking for royal analysis, and that's what I love. I love sharing the truth about royalty. That's about culture, heritage, family, traditions. I think things that should be honored and valued, and I feel like they're not. And so when it comes to giving Harry and Meghan an award, I say, go ahead, Kerry, because really all you expose is yourself and the shills that Harry and Meghan are, because everybody's throwing their hands up and going, why are they getting this award again? It's the eternal mystery. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. I will be myself going to Boston. So if you want some great coverage of Catherine and William's visit, I will be walking around on my feet, working really hard to get you guys some fantastic coverage, and hopefully we'll have a little meetup as well. So guys, thank you again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again really, really soon. Bye.